Daniel chapter 3. King Nebuchadnezzar made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits and its breadth 6 cubits. He set it up on the plains of Dura in the province of Babylon. Now that's about 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide, a ratio of 10 to 1. And we don't really know exactly what this image was. Was it a statue of Nebuchadnezzar, or was it a statue of one of the Babylonian gods, such as Marduk, or was it an obelisk? We haven't found it. Or was it that statue that we read about in chapter 2 that he saw in his dream? And as you can see, golden statues are still very popular today. You can find them all over the world. Now, most of these are gold-plated statues, which is probably what it would have been in the time of Nebuchadnezzar as well. Then Nebuchadnezzar sent to gather the satraps, the prefects, and the governors, who probably included the 3 companions of Daniel. Notice Daniel is not mentioned anywhere in chapter 3. And the 3 companions or relatives of Daniel were now kind of like governors of the province of Babylon. So they would have to come to this event as government officials. Whereas Daniel, by this point, he was the boss of all these magicians and enchanters and sorcerers now. So it's possible Daniel was not actually here at this first event. So this is the dedication of the image. This is like when they cut the yellow tape. It's the opening ceremony. And then later on, everyone's supposed to worship when they play the music. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall immediately be cast into a burning fiery furnace. Now, there are historical records of King Nebuchadnezzar and other rulers actually putting people into a burning oven, like a furnace. Jeremiah mentions it a couple of times, and there's references to it in Herodotus and other ancient writings. So this was a phenomenon. People actually did die like this, and these furnaces could have been used to actually make the molten image of the idols. So this kind of thing happened. All the peoples, nations, and languages fell down and worshiped the golden image that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Now, I think it was probably an image of a god, because at this time in history, you don't see too many kings proclaiming to be God necessarily. Maybe they left it ambiguous on purpose, but it was probably one of the Babylonian gods. And Babylon at this time was pretty multi-ethnic. There was people from all over the ancient Near East living in Babylon from different countries. And he was possibly trying to unite the country. He was facing some political pressure. So he's trying to unite people together under his authority. And whoever does not fall down and worship shall be cast into a burning fiery furnace. Well, this kind of reminds me of the vaccine mandate, because vaccines are really just a modern version of paganism. It's a ritual cleansing agent to keep the bad spirits away. There's no actual practical benefit, whether it's for children or for adults. So, anyone who doesn't get it is declared to be ritually unclean and must be kicked out of society. There are certain Jews whom you have appointed over the affairs of the province of Babylon: Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, pay no attention to you. They do not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. See, that kind of implies it's a statue of a god right there. They're not serving the gods, and they're not worshiping the gods, possibly. And notice Daniel is not mentioned anywhere in the chapter. So these are kind of more like the administrative government officials are being called out. Whereas Daniel, he's back in some other place, like involved in supernatural stuff. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said to them, "Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you have not injected the experimental gene editing technology? That you do not serve my gods or worship the golden image that I have set up?" Now, these days you might expect a big statue of Fauci or Trump or something like that. Now, if you are ready when you hear the sound of the horn, pipe, lyre, trigon, harp, bagpipe, and every kind of music — they had a lot of musical instruments back then — to fall down and worship the image that I have made. But if you do not worship, you shall immediately be cast into a burning fiery furnace. And who is the God who will deliver you out of my hands? Who will deliver you out of my hands? See, Nebuchadnezzar is almost kind of acting like a god himself now. He was becoming tyrannical. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we have no need to answer you in this matter. If this be so, our God, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of your hand, O king. But if not, be it known to you, O king, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image that you have set up. So even if God doesn't rescue them, they're still not going to do it. They're going to risk their lives and face death if necessary. So in a way, it's kind of a test of their faith. Then Nebuchadnezzar was filled with fury, and the expression of his face was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He ordered the furnace heated 7 times more than it was usually heated. It reminds me of a sauna I took about a year ago, and there was a bunch of Russian guys in there, and they kept turning up the heat and putting more water on it. And I was being the American guy. I didn't want to lose out to the Russians, and I ended up getting a heat stroke. And he ordered some of the mighty men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their cloaks, their tunics, their hats, and their other garments, and they were thrown into the burning fiery furnace. Because the king's order was urgent and the furnace overheated, the flame of the fire killed those men who took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Wow, so those same guys who turned up the heat ended up getting killed. And these 3 men fell bound into the burning fiery furnace. Then King Nebuchadnezzar was astonished and rose up in haste. He declared to his counselors, Did we not cast 3 men bound into the fire? They answered and said to the king, True, O king. He answered and said, But I see 4 men unbound, walking in the midst of the fire, and they are not hurt, and the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods. King James says something like son of God or something like that. That's not correct. It is son of the gods, and the Greek says angel of God. And we find out just a few more verses later, it does say angel again. So some people believe this is pre-incarnate Jesus, and keep in mind that the person saying this statement is Nebuchadnezzar, a polytheist. So he saw a divine being, a spiritual entity. He saw it, and in his mind, he expressed it as a son of the gods. Now, if a modern-day Christian saw the same exact phenomenon, they might say, well, that's the Son of God. That's Jesus. Or an angel of God. That's what the Greek says. So the Greek actually says an angel of God. But which angel? Well, it doesn't tell us the name, although in the book of Daniel, both Gabriel and Michael are named. Now, could it be the angel of the Lord or the angel of Yahweh, as we see in the book of Exodus and throughout the Old Testament? Well, Jude 5 makes this connection between Jesus and the angel of God. Jude, the brother of Jesus, says Jesus saved them from Egypt and punished those who did not believe. Although there is a textual variant there, there's some other copies that say the Lord saved the people from Egypt. So it could be the angel of God, in which case that could be Jesus, because Jesus is associated with the angel of the Lord. So if the angel of the Lord is Jesus, and if this angel in the furnace is the angel of the Lord, then it could be Jesus. But the Greek does say an angel. There's no definite article, like there usually is when it's the angel of the Lord. It's an angel of the Lord. So it's a bit ambiguous exactly who it was. It could be Jesus, but it doesn't really say that necessarily. I understand people want to believe it was Jesus, and maybe it was. And, there's a bit of debate. Was the angel of the Lord a pre-incarnate Jesus? Well, maybe a bigger question is Jesus Yahweh? Jesus did say, before Abraham was, I am. I am is basically Yahweh. He says many times, I am, in reference to I am Yahweh. So if the angel of the Lord is a theophany of Yahweh, and if Jesus is Yahweh, then the angel of the Lord is Yahweh. Then we get into the Trinity, which of course, these days people are too cool to believe in the Trinity. Nobody really believes in anything these days, actually, so, it's to be expected, I guess. Nobody believes in anything. So if you do believe in anything, you'll be thrown into the fire. So we don't know the name of this particular angel, but later on, we do hear about Gabriel and even Michael in the book of Daniel, who are angels who are named. One of the few times that we actually hear the names of specific angels in the Bible. Nebuchadnezzar answered and said, "Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel." He sent his angel and delivered his servants who trusted in him and set aside the king's command. They trusted in God. They obeyed God. They did not obey the king, because obeying the king would have resulted in breaking the first commandment in both the Mosaic covenant and also the new covenant, by the way, and yielded up their bodies rather than serve and worship any god except their own. Therefore, I make a decree: any people, nation, or language that speaks anything against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be torn limb from limb, and their houses laid in ruins, for there is no other God who is able to rescue in this way. So again, we see Yahweh winning the battle of the gods, even in Babylon. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. So they got promoted. So they're living in Babylon, kind of like we are. And, they have jobs, but there's one thing they will not do. They will not worship the golden image, because that's a violation of the first commandment. And the Jews and the Israelites violated that very commandment, and that's what got them into this mess in the first place. So I do believe that the ritual injection is a kind of pagan cleansing ritual regarding the ritual purity. I was declared to be a threat to public health because I did not inject the ritual cleansing agent. I was unclean. I was ritually unclean, not physically unclean. I did not have any contagious diseases. There was nothing wrong with me at all. I was perfectly healthy, but they declared me to be ritually unclean, and I was fired from my job, and I was teaching critical thinking at the time. You'd think that if they didn't want you to think critically, they wouldn't have a class called critical thinking. You know the deal. It's insane. Man, this is a really tall statue, actually. I think this must be about 100 feet tall. So this golden image in chapter 3 of Daniel may be around the same height, and who knows, possibly around the same width. 60 cubits tall, possibly a bit more than 6 cubits wide, probably. But that's a lot of cubits. She has some divine qualities. She's like an angel.